Day. Ella just finally arrived. Everything okay? Sure. Okay. Page 338. Maria Moore, 1887 to 1972, was born in Kirkwood, Missouri, outside St. Louis. She never knew her father, who was hospitalized for the nervous breakdown, and did not return to the family. Moore's mother moved her children to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and enrolled her daughter in the girls' prep school where she taught. What's that word means? Matriculating in the Bryn Mawr College. Moore was rejected from the English department, so she studied law, history, politics, and biology. Like somebody. Okay, she and her mother were inseparable for most of their lives, moving together to New York City. Moore's literary career soon flourished, partly due to her correspondences with figures such as H.D. Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot. Her collected poems, 1951, won the what is that word, Noah?
Pulitzer
Prize, National Book Award, and Bowling Prize, the three top awards in American poetry. Later in life, she became a celebrity, featured in popular magazines and interviewed on late-night television talk shows. Moore died at the age 85 from a stroke. Wow, that is in the 50s, 60s, right? Later in life, then she's pretty popular then those times. Now, we're going to read from the beginning, The Fish. We're going to start with Esther.
The fish. Say wade.
Yep.
Wade through black jade, off the crow blue mussel shells. One keeps adjusting the ash heaps, opening and shutting itself like an injured fan. The barnacles which encrust the side of the wave cannot hide there for the submerged shaft of the sun. Split like spun glass, move themselves with spot-like swiftness into the crevices, in and out, eliminating. The turquoise sea of bodies, the water drives a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff, whereupon the stars, pink rice grains, ink, bespattered jellyfish, crabs like green lilies in submarine. Toadstools slide each on the other. All external marks of abuse are present on this defiant
Edifice. Okay.
All the physical features of accident lack. The cornice. Dynamite grooves, burns, and hatchet strokes. These things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. Repeated evidence has proved that it can live on what cannot receive its youth.
Revive in its use, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. The sea grows old in it.
Okay.
That was like weirdly.
That's weird. She broke the sentences to try to emphasize a certain art form, but it's weird to break down, so let me read a little bit. The fish wade through black jade. At the crow blue mussel shells, one keeps adjusting the ash heaps, opening and shutting itself like an injured fin. The barnacle which encrust the side of the wave cannot hide there for the submerged shaft of the sun. Split like a spun glass, moving themselves with spot-like swiftness into the crevices, in and out, illuminating the turquoise sea of bodies. The water dries a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff, whereupon the stars, pink rice grains, ink bespattered jellyfish, crab-like green lilies, and submarine toadstools slide each on the other. All external marks of abuse are present on this defiance edifice. All the physical features of accident, lack of corners, dynamite, grooves, burns, and hatchet strokes, these things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. Repeated evidence and prove that it can live on what cannot revive its youth. The sea grows old in it. That is an instant poem, I'm telling you. Okay, next person gonna read the same poem. That's gonna be Mr. Noah. And he's gonna comment on it, I guess.
Fish. Wade through black jade. Of the crow-blue mussel shells, one keeps adjusting the ash heaps, opening and shutting itself like an injured fan. The barnacles which encrust the side of the wave cannot hide there, for the submerged shafts of the sun, split like spun glass, move themselves with spot-like swiftness into the crevices, in and out, illuminating the turquoise sea of bodies. The water drives a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff, whereupon the stars, pink rice grains, ink bespattered jellyfish, crabs like green lilies, and submarine toadstools slide each on the other. All external marks of abuse are present on this defiant edifice. All the physical features of accident, lack of cornice, dynamite grooves, burns, and hatchet strokes, these things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. Repeated evidence has proved that it can live on what cannot revive its youth. The sea grows old in it.
I'm still confused by what he tried to say.
I just like explaining
Huh?
ocean.
Ocean, huh?
Like
it's like
tide pools or
underwater.
something.
Underwater, huh? You look up on the water, look at the things around them, right? And find the fish. That's what I feel.
Kind of like
ahead.
explaining a tide pool. Pretty much what it seems like, yeah.
What? What?
Isn't it tide pool like a wave?
A tide.
I kind of feel like she's explaining
The
an
fish.
aquarium, actually.
Aquarium, yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Something like that. Yeah. But there is this one. What do you think about? This word is okay. The turquoise sea of bodies. The water dries a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff. There's a cliff there. So whereupon the star, there's a star there. Then if aquarium, you know how to put the star. I'm thinking. So
It might be
illusion.
metaphoric.
Illusion. Okay. What about the star? Pink rice green. That is very interesting. Pink rice green. Anybody else have an impression? What is this author trying to come to describe here? Or I'll give a little bit breakdown how you appreciate this poem. How you appreciate this poem. First, you like it or not?
I thought it was kind of interesting how she like wrote it. Like
Yeah,
the way she has like a
weird.
word
Mm-hmm.
on top of the sentences and then
It's an art form, right? So a little bit artistic. Even the word break it down like an accident.
yeah.
That was a breaking
That's
down.
like detail, but in a different way of explaining it.
Yeah. Very interesting, huh? Very descriptive, but very weak. So that's a word, weak. Impressionist like, right? So, okay. If no comments, we'll move on. If you have any, please share. So. The sea grows old in it. That's an interesting one.
Give me one moment. Mine's calling me. I don't know.
Okay. What do you think this means, this one? All external marks of use are present on this defined
In a way, I almost
edifice.
feel like it's what Noah was saying
Yeah.
about being in a
In a
aquarium,
construct.
because it's almost abusive to like
Yeah,
animals
yeah.
and wildlife and trapped.
Yeah, I could probably do that.
That might be,
Yeah, I have my truck and everything today, so.
might be
and
not
I have a little
true.
time to be able to leave
It's
early
like
to do that.
waves, rough
Yeah, even
weathers.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can bring
Okay, just let me know.
bring sense of use, and right? So rough weather stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know.
Glass moves himself.
What the?
Glass. Yeah, there are certain poems just make you feel miserable. You don't understand it. So. Any desire from this poem?
I could be wrong about it being a aquarium, but I don't know exactly. It is kind of vague. I don't really have much more to add.
Let's just decipher the first sentence, and you will see weed through black jade.
Kind of seems like scuba diving. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Weed through black jade. That means
Yeah.
the nightly ocean, and right? She jumped in to go under. So then the jellyfish in the midnight, they give colors. Okay, so they're like stars, So in the water.
Again, crabs
So-
do glow too.
Yeah, so
Crabs
in
like
the
green
darkness
lilies,
of waters, then she compared herself to be this fish, like a fish swimming in the deep ocean, So who knows?
I think it is
Huh?
scuba diving.
Scuba diving.
I don't know if they would have been doing scuba diving in the 1920s.
or
but-
maybe just
I
talking
don't
to
know.
fish, So yeah.
They
But
probably,
it's-
but what
it's
Emmanuel
just a
said
fish.
about comparing himself to being a fish seems kind of accurate.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously, that's supposed to be from the perspective of a fish.
A fish, yeah. Well, that's where we're disputing. Now, that's a weird way to write poems, obviously. You have to figure out what you try to say. So sometimes the power of the poem is in the weirdness and in the power of illusion, okay? So, yeah. Okay, so poetry, the next one. Gonna have who gonna read it for us? This one. Share the book with her. So, if Naomi, why don't you read the next one for us?
I too dislike it. There are things that are important beyond all this fiddle. Reading it, however, with a perfect contempt for it, one discovers that there is in it, after all, a place for genuine.
For the genuine.
Genuine,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Hands that can grasp, eyes that can dilate, hair that can raise if it must,
Rise.
rise if it must.
Mm-hmm.
These things are important, not because a high-sounding interpretation can be put upon them, but because they are useful. And they become so derived?
Derived.
Derived?
Derivative.
Wait, where are we?
Yeah. Where are we?
Derivative?
Derivative. That's right.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
Means like,
Means alluding to.
yeah.
Um.
I hear Dad use that word
Indeed.
a lot.
Yeah.
And this word too.
Indeed.
Become
Mm-hmm.
unintelligible,
Yeah. Intelligible.
and to become unintelligible, the same thing may be said for all of us, that we do not admire, that we cannot understand. The bat holding on upside down, or a quest of something to eat. Elephants pushing, a wild horse taking a roll, or a tireless wolf under a tree. The immovable critic twinkling his skin like a horse that feels a flea. The baseball fan that
Statistician. Sanitation.
case
Somebody
after case.
study the figures, am I? The statistics.
There was baseball there?
Yeah, study the
How do you
like a
say
survey.
Say what?
Stuff, yeah.
Statistician.
Statistician.
Mm-hmm.
Could be cited did. One wish it, nor it was valid. To discriminate against business documents and school books. All this phenomena are important. One must make a distinction. However, when dragged into prominence by half poets, the result is not poetry, nor till the autocrats among us can be literatists of the imagination, above the insolence and triviality into the present. And I'm confused.
4.
Oh, wow. For inspection.
Mm.
Imaginary gardens with real toads in them, shall we have it. In the meantime, you demand on one hand, in defiance of their option, their opinion, their raw material of poetry and all its rawness, in which that is, on the other hand, genuine, then you are interested in poetry.
So it's first reading 21, revised final version 67. So this poem actually take a long time for her to finalize. Let's read the notes, the footnotes. Diary of Tolstoy. That's the poetry was about. Where the boundary between prose and poetry lies, shall never be able to understand. The question is raised. The Moore's notes actually her own self. So the question is raised in manuals of style. Yet the answer to it lies beyond me. Poetry is verse, prose is not verse. Or else poetry is everything with the exception of business documents or school books. That's her own interpretation a little bit. In the notes for when she described what poetry is about. So, but this is an interesting read. Noah, you read it, I'm gonna read it again. So I like reading this poem and trying to interpret it. So this is a good place for you to really learn, appreciate the poems, not to write a poem, but at least understand poems, right? So the more difficult it is, it might be more potent in terms for you to offer some experience with reading poems, right? So to appreciate styles. The style is weird, but that's part of the poetry, had a customer to certain poetry doing those things. So go ahead.
I will mention real quick. Elijah and I have to leave in 10 minutes at the latest. Elaine needs us to pick up something for her.
Okay, then let's do that. So
Okay.
to finish this one, we might wrap it up. So
Sorry about that.
no, it's okay.
Poetry. I too dislike it. There are things that are important beyond all this fiddle. Reading it, however, with a perfect contempt for it, one discovers that there is in it, after all, a place for the genuine.
So what the object here or subject here? Is that like a poetry, right? Nobody thinks it's important, it matters, but actually has its own value and place in appreciation. Go ahead.
Hands that can grasp, eyes that can dilate, hair that can rise, if it must. These things are important, not because a high-sounding interpretation can be put upon them, but because they are useful. When they become so derivative as to become unintelligible, the same thing may be said for all of us, that we do not admire what we cannot understand. The bat holding on upside down or in quest of something to eat, elephants pushing, a wild horse taking a roll, a tireless wolf under a tree, the immovable critic twinkling his skin like a horse that feels a flea, the baseball fan, the statistician, case after case could be cited did one wish it. Nor is it valid to discriminate against business documents and school books. All these phenomena are important. One must take a distinction, however.
Make a distinction.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
One must make a distinction, however. When dragged into prominence by half poets, the result is not poetry. nor till the autocrats among us can be literalists of the imagination.
Mm.
I'll read that real quick. This is from
No till the autocrats.
Ideas of Good and Evil, William Blake and his illustrations to the Divine Comedy, page 182.
Mm.
The limitation of his view was from the very intensity of his vision. He was a too literal realist of imagination, as others are of nature. And because he believed that the figures seen by the mind's eye when exalted by inspiration were external existences, symbols of divine essences, he hated every grace of style that might obscure their lineaments.
Mm. That's she's a word called sophisticated lady, huh? Interesting. Evidently hugely influenced by European thought this time. Yeah.
Above insolence and triviality, and can present for inspection imaginary gardens with real toads in them, shall we have it? In the meantime, if you demand on one hand, in defiance of their opinion, the raw material of poetry and all its rawness, and that which is, on the other hand, genuine, then you are interested in poetry.
Mm. So what are you trying to say? To convey.
I think she's saying a lot in this one, not just
Yeah.
like one simple message.
Yeah.
It's kind of a collection of thoughts she has concerning poetry and its interpretation and its meaning as an artistic expression.
Mm.
So this would require a lot of thought for me to have more to say.
Yeah. Anybody already getting tired?
I just don't understand it.
No, do I. So we are trying to figure it out. So, any comments from Naomi? What do you think about she tried to say?
Talking about poetry?
Yeah, that's true. That's all you had to say.
Yeah.
So it's just-
Oh, it looks like someone just drove up the Tally Lane.
Oh. Is that
Are we?
her?
We're open.
Is
right?
she red?
Are you
Yeah,
guys
she's a
open?
red car now.
That's a blue car.
Okay, blue car is a customer and green car is a customer. We'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you for the time. May the Lord bless you and you have a great day, okay? So, okay.